I went back and reread what is a scroll. I'm like, I'm not crazy, you're crazy, right? Like, I know what a scroll is, and I'm looking, and it's like, most of these aren't scrolls. They're...
I'm Nerdarchy Ted.
I'm Nerdarchy Dave. Welcome to Nerdarchy, for nerds, by nerds. All right, we're going to jump into another D&D Beyond homebrew for magic items. This time we're talking about scrolls. How do we do this video? What does it mean? Okay, so we're going to look at what we consider the top 10 most popular, and how we determine that is we look and see what has the most views over on the D&D Beyond homebrew. We take the top 10. Ted will pick an item, I'll pick an item, we'll discuss them. There are things that interest. We're not going to discuss them all, but what we will do is put a link down in the description so that you can go and check out all the items that are in the top 10 list and pick out your favorite ones. I think, all you need is a free D&D Beyond account in order to check that stuff out. All right, so I'm gonna grab my handy dandy device here, pull up D&D Beyond, and we're going to take a look at the top 10 list. Number 1, we've got Musings of the Old Master, Ritual Spellbook, Scroll of Pedigree, Scroll of Communication, Ancient Manuscript, Tome of Cat Summoning, Crap Guide to D&D, Scroll of Sealing, Book of Shields, Cartographer's Map.
All right. Now, I think we kind of have to ask ourselves a question here. What's a scroll? There's that age-old question of...
Most of these things are not scrolls. I'm going to spoiler alert. Literally, I had to go through 23 items to get to 2 things that I considered were actually scrolls. But let's see what the DMG says a scroll is.
So a scroll says, most scrolls are spells stored in written form, while a few bear unique incantations that produce potent wards. Whatever its contents, a scroll is a roll of paper, sometimes attached to wooden rods, and typically kept safe in a tube of ivory, jade, leather, metal, or wood. A scroll is a consumable magic item. Whatever the nature of magic contained in a scroll, unleashing that magic requires the user to read the scroll. When its magic has been invoked, the scroll can't be used again. Its words fade or crumbles into dust. Unless a scroll description says otherwise, any creature that can understand a written language can read the script on a scroll and attempt to activate it. And then there's a whole cool thing about, scroll mishaps and what have you.
Yeah, so at first I'm like looking at these and I'm like, I went back and reread what is a scroll. I'm like, I'm not crazy, you're crazy, right? Like, I know what a scroll is, and I'm looking and it's like, most of these aren't scrolls. They're actually like wondrous items for the most part, just because, first of all, if it's a book, right off the bat, not a scroll.
Right.
And, if it requires attunement, not a scroll. If it's not consumed when you use it, also not a scroll, right? So all of these factors play in, and I don't, even if it looks like a scroll, but it doesn't do those other things like a scroll, then I would say it's probably a wondrous item.
Yeah, and you can absolutely go and create something that unfurls like a scroll, and you use it as an item that does other things. But, when it comes to making an item for the game, putting it in its proper attribution item type is necessary because certain classes or characters use certain things in different ways. So, it's not as bad with this edition as it was in previous editions because, there was a separate saving throw for scrolls, staves and wands and what have you. So, it could be important if it didn't, you got to make sure you're rolling the right saving throw. But, so it was kind of looking through, I had to go all the way to the second page to grab what I thought was a scroll that I enjoyed talking about and it was fun, but it's not in the top 10 on the view list because there's not enough top 10 scrolls in that list.
And I'm totally cool with an item, right, that doesn't look like a scroll, but as long as it does all the other things like a scroll, that's fine. It could be wood, carvings on a wooden totem that you read, and once you do, the magic is gone, right? To me, it could still be used, or strings of coral that you find on a Sahagan spellcaster, because parchment isn't going to work the same way. I'm okay with making alternate scrolls, but they still have to have those other properties for it to work. And also there also should be some kind of reading component like even if it's different, right?
Right.
If a particular culture uses knotted leather thongs, right, and based on how they're placed, their size, you by touch you feel them, and it constructs a sentence, or it's something they technically are reading without seeing it. Like, to me, that would be fine as well. So that's kind of the thing, is that, and also, like, if you're putting it on something else, it still has to be something you would read, right? Whether it's using your eyes, another sense, like you could do something cool, like, it's a stone tablet, right, instead of a scroll that you can only see with dark vision for, in the dark, and you can read it. But as long as it has a magical effect that takes place once you read it, and then it's no longer magical, boom, in my opinion, still a scroll.
Yeah, it has to fulfill that niche of it's usable only once. It has a magical effect, and it's
there's a reading component.
There's that component of interaction. Whether it's reading by sight or reading by feel. It's definitely a lot to take in. But I think we have to add another little disclaimer here as well.
Yeah, this video is sponsored by D&D Beyond. Like we said, we're gonna have links to all those different scrolls that you can check out over on the Homebrew section. All you need is a free account, so go power up your game with D&D Beyond. But not only that, we have an article written by Nerdarchy Doug over on the website. It's our Factor of 3 series, where Doug takes the same kind of list that we do, but he comes up with the list of 3 different ways with a little write-up on each of them, so you can go check that out if you want even more information on homebrew scrolls.
All right, so I'm going to pull up mine, and I've got Mun's Melody. This is done by Razor Ice. It's another name I believe I've seen before. And this is a cursed. It's a scroll artifact. When held up to the moonlight, the back of the scroll reveals a song that, when played with the correct instrument at the correct time of the day, leads the musician to a treasure only ever spoken of. The music will light a path of faintly glowing music notes, but will only last as long as the song is being played. So, it produces a magical effect. You read the notes of the song to play, and while it does definitely have the wonky part of like, all right, well, you got to keep playing to be able to find out where you're going. The core concept that I like the most about this is it leads to adventure. It leads to more story being found, and nothing of exactly what is found is written within the item, allowing it to really be open up to the DM's, choice as to, well, what is there? Are you going to find a lost civilization? Are you going to find lost magic? What's going to be out there for you to go and acquire? So I definitely like this one. I feel it fits all of the notes, pun intended, because it's melody, get it? Of what a scroll is, so I definitely dig it.
So basically, it's a magical treasure map.
It's a magical treasure map. Yep.
With extra steps, because you have to keep playing it. It definitely works, and you had to go, like you said, to the second page in order to even find it. I think, in my opinion, there was only one scroll that I considered an actual scroll in the top 10.
Sure.
It's a legendary item, and it is Crap Guide to D&D. Using the scroll causes your intelligence to double, and it gives you the user sword and shield a +2 enchantment for damage and AC bonus separately. The intelligence bonus lasts only for a day, but the enchantment on the sword and shield are permanent. After using the scroll, it will combust and the room will fill with a jaunty lute music. So it fills all the requirements. There's an effect that happens. Some of those effects are lasting, but it still works. And I admit it, I was drawn to it because it's the Crap Guide, which, anyone that's familiar with YouTube and D&D probably is well aware of Joe Cat. And I was like, did Joe Cat make this? There's a note. Despite the name and the reference, there are no swear words other than the one in the title. This is a reference to Joe Cat's Craft Guide to D&D series. And it is made by some guy named Steve, which I do not believe some guy named Steve has anything to do with the Craft Guide to D&D. But I just thought this is one of the only items that actually meets the requirement. It's a bit on the powerful side.
Sure.
Legendary side, I think it creates 2 very rare items from a legendary, so that might check out. I've seen DMs allow you to like trade out magic items and use that currency.
Sure. So a +2 weapon is only rare.
Oh, okay.
So I definitely feel, I believe armor is a step up from that. So that mechanic definitely can be a good trade out. Now, doubling your intelligence score for a day, depending upon what it starts at, could be really bonkers wonky, depending upon when you go to use it.
A 40. I have a 40 intelligence.
So, you give that thing to a blade singer and holy crap.
That would be insane. And, or even Artificer, some of the Artificer stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Flash of Genius, boom. Take a +15.
Wow. Yeah.
So I'm not saying there aren't room for abuses or even that it's awesome. What I'm saying is it actually fit the requirement for being a scroll. Like so many other ones requires attunement. Well, scrolls don't require attunement. You can use it more than once, or it has charges. Like at that point, it's just a wondrous item that looks like a scroll.
Sure. But all in all, there's definitely some fun things there if you're able to kind of sift through, do your research as you will, and find out what kind of D&D scrolls or D&D Beyond Homebrew scrolls you want to add into your game.
Let us know in the comments below.
While you're down there, don't forget to do all those fun things like share, subscribe, even go ahead and attune to that notification bell.
Quick reminder, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, we drop new videos here on the channel, so come on back. But you can't wait till then. No worries, we've got you covered. There's a card up here you can check out for our last top 10 homebrew we did for potions.
So until next time,
Stay nerdy.